Hi, you guys. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Tips with T. My name is Tiara, but you can call me T. And today I have Mr. Mark with me today. How are you today?
I'm great. I'm great. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. I'm glad you decided you wanted to come on the show and be a guest today. So, tell us more about yourself and what you do.
Sure thing. My name is Marc Summe, and I run a SaaS business called Minute Seven. And what Minute Seven does is we track time and expenses for small businesses, um, and we focus on professional services firms. So our customers are like architects and law firms and engineering services firms, folks like that. That the problem that we're trying to help them solve is they want to track time for primarily for billing purposes, right? They're tracking their time because they're going to bill their customers, and before they start using our product, they're having to do that manually. So they're tracking that on a spreadsheet or paper, and then they're manually inputting it into a system like QuickBooks for billing purposes. And so what we help them do is just do that a lot more efficiently so that they can push down time tracking to their employees. They can review and approve it and then get it into QuickBooks very easily to send out invoices or to run payroll. Um, so that's what I do. I've been doing it for a couple years. And then a little bit about me. I grew up in Dayton, Ohio, um, and I moved to Chicago almost 17 years now. So a long time ago, but I work in the suburbs of Chicago, um, and the company that I work for is remote. So we have a couple of employees, but everyone sort of works from their own space. Um, but yeah, that's a little bit about me in minute seven.
That's awesome to hear. Awesome. So, when did you decide to become an entrepreneur and why?
Yeah, so I feel like when most people answer this question, they talk about something when they were little, like they were selling Girl Scout cookies or I don't know, like at a young age, they sort of knew they were an entrepreneur. But I don't really have that story. I Mine was more. I worked at a bank after college, and I worked there for 6 years. And while I was working there, I got to meet entrepreneurs. So that was really how I don't know, my introduction to entrepreneurship was really talking to people because we used to lend. I worked for a part of the bank that lent money to small businesses. Um, so that's how I got exposed to it, was talking to these entrepreneurs who were needing financing. Typically, they were using that money to grow the business. Um, and that seemed really exciting. And then, some of the things that you might expect from a bank, there's a lot of, rules and a lot of um, you have to do things in a certain way, and I rightly or wrongly maybe don't like all of that authority and rule following. So not that I was doing anything wrong, but I kind of like to do my own thing. So that's sort of how talking to those entrepreneurs is really the spark that got me to think like, hey, I could do something on my own. And um, you know it, that was really how I got interested in entrepreneurship.
Well, awesome. So, how was the journey for you so far as an entrepreneur?
Yeah, it's also kind of a different one because I think I got started later than most people. Like I think a lot of entrepreneurs just, from a very young age. I didn't start getting more into entrepreneurship until I was around 30 years old. So I left the bank to become an online marketer. So this was 2000 and right around 2008, 2009. Um, And what I did to get into entrepreneurship was I was still working in finance during the day, but at night I was moonlighting as a online marketer. At the time, Google had a bunch of these. They might still have them, but they had a bunch of these tools that you could teach yourself how to do, like paid search marketing and learn more about SEO strategies. Google wouldn't talk about this, but other people would talk about how you could implement SEO strategies using Google's algorithm. But I just sort of taught myself that, and then I posted myself on Craigslist as someone who could help people with online marketing. And then I, had a couple of customers and felt like I was good enough that I could actually go join a startup company, because I knew that if you're a small company, you typically don't need like a banker or someone with finance. You need someone who can do something helpful in the early days, which is usually either, build the product or sell the product or help market it. So I felt like, since I didn't know how to code, the way I could help a small startup was to help them in marketing. So I left the bank in 2009 to join a startup here in Chicago. And ever since then, I've sort of been working towards becoming an entrepreneur in terms of running my own business. And then that finally happened about 2.5 years ago. I partnered up with my partner on for Minute Seven and started running this business about 2.5 years ago.
Awesome. So, marketing is very important when you're first starting out your business because that's how you can go grow your clientele, get yourself out there. Um, and a lot of people, think that marketing isn't important, but I'm learning myself that it is.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't be a successful entrepreneur without the right marketing tools and how to get yourself out there and how to get your business out there and your products or whatever you're doing. Um, so that's a lot of people tend to struggle with that. So what like advice would you give, or I guess a tip you would give as far as marketing when
Yeah.
businesses are first starting out?
Yeah, and I think you're right on it. Especially in the technology space, there's this sort of mantra that if you have a great product, you don't need to do sales and marketing, um, which mostly is just not true. There's a lot of great products out there. So you really do need to, in addition to having a great product, you need to have some sort of sales or marketing strategy. Um, in terms of recommendations, I think what I've done historically that works, it's not super complicated, but I would just experiment with different ways. So, there's certain things you can try for relatively cheap, like especially around content strategy. So, um, you know, first I would start by thinking, who is my customer and how do I get in front of them? And there's different ways you can do that. You can do it with like paid search, but that's sort of like anyone, there's no barriers to entry there. Anyone can buy a keyword. So it just isn't that strategic. So I would think of other ways, like where are your customers hanging out? Are they hanging out in a certain group on Facebook? Are they hanging out offline in meetups? Um, are there certain conferences that they go to? And then I would, you know, also like content wise, what are the problems that your customers are having, and how can you help them and get in front of them? And if you're helping them with something else, it's easier to help them with whatever your product is. So if they're, from a content perspective, if they're searching for certain things online where they need help, and you're helping, and you create content that helps them with that, then you're perfectly aligned to refer them whatever it is that you have. So I would try those things. I would try content strategies where you can generate traffic online. I would try attending conferences and see if how many customers you can get from that, and if the investment is you get a positive return on that investment. And then when you do find something that is working, it's important to sort of double down on that and really focus on getting the most out of that channel that's working for you. So if you find a content strategy, how do you scale that? How can you create more content to get more customers? And so that might involve building a team or um, finding ways to generate more content faster so you can get more customers. So anyway, I would, to summarize, I would say try a bunch of different things, measure to see, are you getting customers from that strategy? And if so, then focus on how you can grow that specific channel.
Those are awesome ideas. I know with with me, I had to identify my target market. And sometimes your target market is going to change. Sometimes you, um, where like I do tax returns now, individual tax returns, where I might want to decide later to target businesses. So it depends on what target market you are really trying to um, pursue.
Oh, sorry. I think my internet might have been a little wonky there. I heard part of your question. You were talking about
Target market, yeah.
you were
How?
talking about your audience, I think, and it might, yeah, it might change.
Mhm. But your tips was very good though. That you about the sales and marketing strategy. Most definitely will look into those. So, so what are some of the benefits that you have realized or noticed that works best for you when becoming an entrepreneur? What are some of the benefits for you?
Oh, sure. Yeah. So, um, the thing that I like most about entrepreneurship is the autonomy and the control I have. So, you know, when you work at a larger organization, someone else oftentimes is dictating strategy or what you should be working on. Um, and with entrepreneurship, you have that control. So, um, I mean, that can be, that also creates challenges, right? Because if you pick the wrong thing, there's no one else to blame but yourself. But the benefits for me, number one, are that. So if I know, if I'm running the business, I run it every day. I talk to my customers every day. I have a really good feel on what we need to do to grow the business,
Mhm.
and I can control sort of what things that we're gonna um, prioritize to grow the business versus, you're your. I guess a simple way to say that is you're your own boss. So I really enjoy that. Like I said, it can be hard because there's nowhere to hide if things don't go well. But overall, it's a net positive for me, and I really like that. And then also, this is sort of I think a broader comment on maybe the future of work or maybe how people are working. But in my specific example, entrepreneurship allows me to control my schedule. I have young children, so I have three kids under the age of 5, and I my office is in like a 5-minute walk from where I live, so I don't have to waste a lot of time, you know, driving to and from work or sitting on a train. So I get to, work a full day plus some more, but I can also get home and, and see my kids and my wife, which is important to me. So I think kind of having the autonomy to work on the things that I want to work on and controlling my time and how I get to balance the work and life stuff are two benefits that I really like about entrepreneurship.
Yeah, I completely agree. I um, basically love being able to set and have my own schedule. You work in a regular 9 to 5, you had to work their schedule. You had to request time off. And then you know, it's hard, especially when you do have a family and you want to be to certain events and be active, and sometimes you can't always necessarily do that if you're on a 9 to 5 and they're not trying to be flexible or reasonable with you. They rather, it's like your job is more important to your family. And I think that is not the case all the time. I feel like, entrepreneurship does allow you to have that flexibility so you can be a good supportive spouse and, parent. And I feel like, it can be stressful, but it's a different level of stress when you're working for yourself than working for another organization. Um, to where they are very strict about how they want you to do things and how they want you to perform. When you, especially if you're like a creative person and you have your own creativity about yourself, entrepreneurship give you that free range to do whatever you feel like doing that helps benefit you. So that was some of the benefits that I found I enjoy about being an entrepreneur.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, it's a nice part about it, and it's hard when you like you still have a lot of folks that are not entrepreneurs. So I don't know. It can be isolating being an entrepreneur, but I also can't imagine going back to the other alternative of non-entrepreneurship. So I'm I certainly enjoy it.
Well, that is awesome. So tell us how we can contact you, and I'm going to share the screen again.
Sure, yeah. So happy to talk with anybody about entrepreneurship or Minute Seven. My email address, you can always email me directly, and it's just Mark MARC at minute7.com. And then on Twitter, I'm just at Marc Summe. So you can always ping me on Twitter. But happy to chat with anyone out there about entrepreneurship or Minute Seven.
Awesome. And if you guys want to get in contact with me, you can call me. My number is 910-317-0396. You can email me at contactmjfinancial.biz. You can schedule a consultation on my website, www.mjfinancial.biz. And then, you guys, if you're on the go and you want to go back and listen to this episode, you can find this episode on Anchor. And thank you again, Mr. Mark, for being on the show today. It was a lovely pleasure having you.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Tiara. It was really great to chat with you, and I wish you all the best of luck in your business.
Thank you, and same to you. All right, you guys, we'll see you on the next episode of Tips with T. Thank you for tuning in.